Hello and a very warm welcome to this short video. During our second workshop, we will be exploring the complexities of relationship dynamics. To help us do this, we'll use a model called transactional analysis. As we explore this topic, both in the video and also during the workshop, I'd like to ask you to think about your workplace relationship. And as I explain the model, I'd like you to consider the roles that each of you are playing when you're interacting. See what you notice. The transaction analysis was developed by Canadian-born psychiatrist Eric Berne in the late 1950s. He continued to develop and apply this new methodology, leading him to publish his best-selling book, The Games People Play, in 1964. In 1976, Thomas Harris published his famous book, I'm OK, You're OK, as a practical guide to transactional analysis. And if you're interested in learning more about transactional analysis, I would recommend both of these books. A Berne's starting point was that when two people interact, there's what he called a transaction stimulus and also a transaction response. He was interested in the dynamics of interpersonal communications and how the characteristics of transactions, as he called them, between individuals affected the nature and outcome of the communication. So transaction analysis helps to explain in simple terms why we think, feel, and behave in the way we do. At any given time, each of us experiences and manifests our personality through a mixture of behaviours, thoughts, and feelings. Berne proposed that when we communicate with others, we do so from one of three different ego states: parent, adult, or child. In any communication, the ego state we adopt will be reflected in the words we say, the tone we use, and the body language we display. The use of each of these three states is not related to your age or whether or not you are an actual parent. And Berne differentiated his references to parent, adult, and child by capitalising the first letter. Now, anyone can and will use any of these three ego states, irrespective of the personal situation or age. So, for example, in the workplace, you might observe an adult supervisor taking on the role of parent ego state and scolding an adult employee as though they were a child. Or I'm sure many of us have witnessed an actual child using their adult ego state, offering a thoughtful opinion on some matter to either their friend or indeed to their parent. Let's look at each of these ego states in a little more detail. Our parent ego state is derived from a massive collection of recordings in the brain of external events experienced or perceived in the first 5 years of our life. It's the ingrained voice of authority, behaviours, thoughts, and feelings copied from parents or parent figures, for example, aunts, uncles, grandparents, teachers, and others in positions of authority. So it's absorbed conditioning. For example, we might have learned things like don't talk to strangers, or don't eat with your mouth full, or any range of a number of sayings or expressions or behaviours that really fitted with our family traditions and culture and beliefs. So in our parent ego state, our concept of life is what we've been taught or what we ought to do. Our main focus is on you, the other person. And as the focus is on you, we take responsibility for others when we're acting from our parent ego state. Our child ego state is derived from recordings in the brain of internal events associated with external events that we've experienced or perceived during the first 5 years of life. It's the internal emotions and the feelings associated with that external event. So for example, as a child, you might have really enjoyed the clown at a party and come home and in delight said, oh, the clown at the party was really funny. And we may find ourselves laughing now as adults at a clown on the television as we make that internal connection with the emotions and feelings of when we were a child. And of course, this can happen in the negative as well. So it's our behaviour, thoughts and feelings that are being replayed from our actual childhood. Our responses, therefore, tend to be more emotional and unreflective. So when anger or despair dominates, our child ego state is in control. And in this child ego state, our concept of life is felt, it's emotion. And our main focus is on me, i.e. that internal me. And as the focus is on me, we take responsibility for no one or nothing. Our adult ego state is derived from our ability to think and determine action for ourselves based on the data we're receiving through reflection and thought. So it's behaviour, thoughts and feelings which are direct responses to the here and now. In our adult ego state, our concept of life is thought. It's based on that data and that reflection in the here and now. Our main focus is on I. So we take responsibility for ourselves and no one else. Now, the ego states are about what's going on in our mind. We can be very parental even though we don't have any children. So as mentioned earlier, the states may not represent the relationships they act out. Another example may be an adult employee mucking around in the workplace like a child, with their adult colleague chastising them for being immature like a parent might. Now, the parent and child ego states have two subdivisions. Parental behaviours are either critical, where you're comparing events to an internal set of rules, and most often in a negative way. So we will have been brought up with family traditions and beliefs. So those internal set of rules will have been formed through that process. So if somebody doesn't come up to those standards or those beliefs, they're behaving in a way that we don't think is right, then we will tend to judge them. So when we're in critical parent, we will be more criticising in our tone, and our body language will demonstrate that as well. The other parental behaviour is nurturing parent, where you'll see more caring, supportive, permission-giving behaviours and expressions and tone. Childlike behaviours are either adapted to others, where you will tend to be more compliant, conforming to the wishes of others' demands. And the adapted child can also be manipulative, and they can also be withdrawn. Or a free, sometimes referred to as natural child ego state, which is spontaneous, intuitive, seeks pleasure, and basically an unfiltered expression and reactions. Now, each of these subdivisions can be functional, in other words, they can be positive, but they can also be dysfunctional and negative. A positive, nurturing parent can, for example, be caring. You might hear this play out in the workplace with, do you want to help with that job? If you do, let me know, I'm happy to help. A negative, nurturing parent can be quite spoiling. So this might play out as, oh, you poor thing, you must be so busy and so exhausted, let me do that for you. And the body language would match that. Critical parent can be structuring. There's occasions where we need to have that structure to be able to follow. But critical parents can also be quite controlling in a negative lens. Your free child, positive can be spontaneity. An injection of humour at the right time in a meeting can be really valuable. But too much larking and joking about in the workplace can come across as being immature. A positive adapted child will be cooperative, and we need that in the workplace. We need to comply with what is required, and we need others to do the same. A negative adapted child may be resistant. For example, if they don't want to do something, possibly in times of change, they may sulk, or you might hear some huffing and puffing or banging things down, rather than actually asking for what they really want. I'm sure you're already relating to this model. We all know this, we're tuned into it, and we experience the behaviours, I'm sure, in ourselves, and especially in others. So I'm just bringing up some statements that just typify these ego states that we see here, the nurturing and critical parent ego state, the adult ego state, and the free and adapted child ego state. Transactional analysis helps to create awareness. It helps us to recognise and label these states. During the workshop, we undertake an activity to bring to life how our behaviours, thoughts and feelings can be labelled in this way. So this first stage is really to help you understand the transactional analysis PAC model. We can then become more aware of how they play out in our relationships. So we'll look at this model in terms of relationship dynamics and what you can learn from it in terms of your workplace relationship example that you're bringing. Now, transactional analysis is a hugely in-depth and complex subject, and this short video aims to provide a very basic overview in the context of the Building Effective Relationships workshops. Further information will be in your workbook, and there is a vast amount of literature available should you wish to pursue a more in-depth understanding. Please bring any questions that may have arisen for you if you've watched the video to the workshop, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you.